This is the MGP Fighter. You can find me at DAMGPFIGHT. That's DAMGPFIGHT. Showing you some sites right now. The Rockaway Park, a manufactured gas plant site. It's a Class 2 hazardous waste site located on Beach Channel Drive and 108th Street in Rockaway Park. You're going to see a vehicle traveling here from left to right. That street is Rockaway Freeway. That's the southern side of the site. This is my property. It's my neighbor's property. My property was supposed to look similar to that, but construction was started, and as a result of discovery of contaminants on my property, I decided to halt any further construction until we can get this situation resolved. So right now I'm being deprived of the use of my property, enjoyment of the property, which is another issue, but we won't get into that. We're just going to try to get a brief overview of the site. You can see my property, how close it is to these railroad tracks here. It's probably about probably 20 feet, maybe 25 feet at the most, from my property line to the railroad tracks. There's a groundwater plume that extends off the site, and the site stays in the background, and the plume ends halfway between these two tracks. The track closest to us is headed eastbound, and the track that's further away is headed westbound. Okay, as we move north of the two tracks, we can see a fence, which is the other side of the Transit Authority property, and then we have a sidewalk out there, which is Rockaway Freeway, the street where you saw the vehicle pass a little while ago, just a moment ago, and then you can see the fence for the manufactured gas plant. You'll see a truck coming into the shot, moving from left to right. That's the roadway right there. You saw a cyclist right there. He's not even aware of the danger he faces and what he's breathing as he rides by. There's no signage, or very little signage. So that's the proximity of my house to the site. Of course, the groundwater plume ends on this train track here, and here's my property right there. National Grid and DEC are a legend. Well, I'm going to say DEC, not National Grid, is a legend that the contamination of my property does not stem from the site or the groundwater plume, which ends about 25 feet from the property, but they're claiming that the contaminants possibly stem from a gas station that was once on the corner of 109th Street and Rockaway Beach Boulevard. And they only say this in regards, the only information or data they have to back up this claim is a photo, a Sanborn photo from, I guess, 1936 that shows there was a gas station there at one point. Whether there was ever a spill recorded there, there's no spill that has been recorded at that gas station. All right, so it's just supposition on their part, and they appear, in my opinion, the DEC is attempting to place the contaminants on my property as originating from another source other than this MGP site, which leads me to believe that maybe they are not working in our public or the public's best interest, but rather National Grid's interest. And that's just supposition on my part there, but I don't know, the facts sort of bear that out in my opinion. Real quick, you see a boat back here. There's a boat launch. If I compare, there's a building here. On the other side of this building is a boat launch. People use it to jet ski, maybe launch canoes, put their boats in the water. And Jamaica Bay, of course, is leaching. The site is leaching into Jamaica Bay. I don't know if these people are at risk when they contact that water. All right, Jamaica Bay is in the background, and you can see as I kind of zoom, you'll probably be able to see the street sign if I can focus in. That's Beach Channel. I'm not going to kill myself trying to get a steady shot. And that's 108th Street. Jamaica Bay is right there. Pull back. That kind of gets you dizzy looking at a shot like that. And so you can see how close the bay is to it. The bay is a federally protected wetland. We have to protect the bay. It's protection for us basically against hurricanes, the wetlands, slow down tidal surge and things of that nature. There's a rich, very diverse amount of wildlife in Jamaica Bay, which a lot of people aren't aware of. It's a migratory stop habitat for migrating fish, birds, you name it. And it's a shame to see it being, I wouldn't say destroyed, but having to be subjected to adverse effects of these these big oil companies, gas companies. We look at BP, where the dollar is placed as a priority ahead of public health and welfare. I think seems to me like we're collateral damage for these people in their quest just basically to make money. I'm going to shoot left here. There's a tree there. The greenery is blocking my sight, but I'm not upset because I love the greenery. This site was once all green and looked really nice when I moved in. No one told me this was a hazardous waste site until probably about 1.5 years after I had the property. You know, maybe some lack of due diligence on my part, but you know, you would never suspect that this site was all green, and it looked really serene when you look out this window, this green site with trees and the grass and Jamaica Bay in the background, and it turned out to be a hazardous waste site. So a little bit of lack of due diligence on my part, but I think these sites should have the proper signage. We're looking west here, and if we look, you'll see Rockaway Freeway, which is a roadway, and you see that car, it'll curve off to the north. You see them curving off to the north. It's an east-westerly road, but it curves off to the north, and it's going to end by this mobile gas station here. And that is Beach Channel Drive. This mobile gas station, 1998, they found a lot of contaminants under this gas station, which kind of suggests the plume is moving westward. And that's the mobile there at Beach Channel Drive and Rockaway Freeway. Here we have an entrance to a mall, a strip mall, container wall bombs, where a lot of people in the area shop. The majority of people, I guess, in the area shop. And they found a monitoring well here, right there at the entrance. It was highly contaminated. It caused them to well, I wouldn't say it caused them to, but the wall bombs itself has been declared a hazardous waste site, and it's known as the Bell Harbor site, although you won't be able to find very much information on it if you go to DUC's website. But it has been designated its own hazardous waste site. All right. Heavy contamination there at the wall bombs. If we swing, heavy contamination on the southern side of the street, which is Rockaway Freeway. I'll pull back so you guys don't get dizzy out there. Heavy contamination found right about here on the southern side of Rockaway Freeway, and that's RPSB 80 to be exact. That's the situation. The groundwater plume has moved southward. You see the fence for the site? Okay, that wooden fence there is the southern perimeter of the site. It's on the northern side of Rockaway Freeway, and the plume extends in a southward direction halfway across the railroad tracks. Now, if the groundwater, as National Grid and DEC alleges, moving north, how then did the plume move southward off the property across the railroad tracks? Additionally, the Atlantic Ocean comes under my home at high tide, travels onto the site about halfway to 3/4 across the site at high tide, and then the ocean recedes back under my home, back to the Atlantic. Question is, when that tide recedes back to the Atlantic, does it not take contaminants with it, or do the contaminants magically desorb from the water? Or not desorb, but they sorb to particles of sand, meaning that they're not soluble at that point. They're attached to particles of sand, so on and so forth, and they don't actually travel with the water back to the beach. That doesn't seem likely to me. I'm not a hydrogeologist. You guys out there don't quote me on it, but I'm just looking at it from a very practical standpoint. If the Atlantic Ocean does travel on that site, why then does the contaminants with it not travel back to the Atlantic, under my house and south to the Atlantic when the tide recedes? All right. I'm going to now probably conclude, and I'm going to go into a second series of video. It's going to be entitled Part 1 and Part 2. I don't know what I'm going to name this yet, but when you look at those videos, they're going to show you a lot of diagrams from National Grid and DEC's records that are basically going to bear out the facts or the statements which I've made herein. Okay? And that's about it. One interesting thing that you might note is that despite the level of contamination here, the site has, I can't tell the exact amount, but a large number of monitoring devices there on the site. And where the public resides is a very low amount of monitoring devices. So I don't think they're really monitoring where the public resides very much. And I'm going to sign off now, and I'll get back to you in a few moments. Thank you.